Hi, Patrick Phillip here at Effective Martial Arts HQ. In this lesson, the fighting stance. Alright, so in this video, we're going to cover everything you need to know about the fighting stance for striking. So specifically, we're going to cover the 3 essential requirements that you must respect at all times to be in a proper fighting stance, and consequently, the 3 fatal mistakes that you must avoid at all times. We're going to see all the possible hand placement configurations you can have to be protected at all times with your hands, and that can vary and can switch from one to the other. We're going to look at basic mobility, so how to move around while always staying in your fighting stance. We're going to look at how to transfer your weight efficiently, how to manipulate your elevation, as well as how to twist your body for added power with your strikes while always staying safe. We're also going to look at the basics of head movement, so using the concept of the cube to understand where you can place your head to be safer, and then use that to land your attacks later. So if you're new to this channel, here we teach one curriculum for striking, wrestling, and grappling, and that's what we teach in our school as well. So if you're interested in learning everything you need to know to be able to defend yourself in hand-to-hand combat, subscribe right now. We're really excited about what's coming up, and we're just getting started. Alright, so without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so the 3 essential requirements and the 3 fatal mistakes that you must avoid at all times to stay in a proper fighting stance are 1. Feet wide, 2. Knees bent, and 3. Chin down. As long as you respect those 3 things, you're going to be pretty well off with your fighting stance. Now the way we teach it to beginners is very simple. You want to start with your feet shoulder width apart, facing squarely to your imaginary opponent or the direction you want to be facing. And from there take one big step forward and back so that you wind up with your feet slightly wider than your shoulders. From there, depending on where you're facing, you want your body slightly angled away from your opponent so you're not providing too much exposure to your body for strikes. And you want to have your chin down always. So this is really important. So having your chin, the tip of your chin specifically, lower than the tip of your shoulders. So if you look at yourself in the mirror, the tip of your chin has to be a little bit lower than the tip of your shoulders. As long as you have that, you're going to be relatively safe. And we're going to look at hand placement in a moment. But the common mistake is when you see the tip of the shoulders is lower than the tip of the chin, you're not in a fighting stance anymore and your chin is exposed. And the chin is one of the most valuable targets on the human body, aside from the groin, because it acts as a lever on your skull. So if you get hit on the chin, 1, it can break your jaw, especially if your teeth are not clenched. So you can swing here, and then it can create a whiplash effect on your skull. So your brain is going to rattle in your skull, and that's what creates knockouts. So it's going to be very hard to use that lever and hit your chin if your chin is tucked away beneath your shoulders. Now, as far as hand placement goes, the basic variation that we like to teach our students is to have your backhand glued to your face here on the cheekbone and the chin tucked, and the lead shoulder tucked on the other side of the chin. So your chin is cupped on both sides. From there, you can have your lead hand up in front. It can be with a palm or with a fist, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. Either you're trying to block or grab, or you're trying to attack. And this is going to be the main variation that you want to be comfortable with and staying in this position as you move around. You also want to be able to do that on both sides. Okay, more on this later. The other option is to have simply both hands up, so your hand can be separated from the face a little bit. You can have both palms. This is going to be good for self-defense, acting non-violently to try to defuse the situation, but at the same time being ready to react as well. This is also good if you want to try to go for a grappling, if you want to control the wrists of the opponent and go for clinching or grappling attacks. And when you're ready to attack, you can also close your fist. But it's a little bit safer to have your backhand here, because if a strike comes here and you didn't react in time, at least your guard is up already. The other option as well that's been popularized by Mike Tyson in boxing is to have what we call the turtle guard, or also known as the peekaboo style guard. So having both hands glued to the face. This is going to be especially useful when strikes are coming at you. So either the person has closed the distance on you and then you're a bit overwhelmed and there's strikes coming everywhere. You can use your turtle guard here to deflect and block long enough to either disengage or block and then counter with strikes of your own. You can also use this guard as you're closing the distance, especially if you're one of the shorter fighters relatively to your opponent. You want to be using that to close the distance and get into the range where you can land your strikes or takedowns so you're protected on your way in. Another popular type of guard that's been popularized by Floyd Mayweather in boxing is what we call the Philly shell. A little bit more advanced, so you're still going to have your backhand glued to your face here and lead shoulder glued to the face as well, but now the hand is going to be here cupping the body to protecting his body strikes, and typically that's going to be more of a bladed stance here when we're going to use our shoulder here to deviate strikes and a lot of head movements as well to use defensively. Now it's a little bit more advanced, so is the last variation we're going to show you here. We're going to plant the seed right now, but if you're just starting out, just stick with the basic stance over here because it's a lot safer, or this one or this one. This one gives you more opportunities to attack quickly with the jab. The last variation is simply having both hands down. But in this case, it's really important to be comfortable with your mobility and with your head movements, because it's kind of like in hockey when you take out the goaler, you have more chances to score, you're more mobile, you have more balance, you're conserving energy in your shoulders, you can attack very quickly with your arms because they're relaxed, but you have no guard, you have no hands to protect your face. So it's very important to have your chin down at all times if you decide to have your hands down in a fight. But also it's very, very good with movement and head movement so that you're not getting hit. So this is a little bit more advanced variation, but again, it's possible, and a lot of excellent fighters have popularized this style, namely Dominic Cruz, Anderson Silva, so look up those highlights as well to see how they move, but keep in mind that it's a little bit more advanced. So if you are just starting out, keep that chin down and keep those hands up. And one last possible variation with the hands is having your shield guard over here, so using your forearm to deflect or block strikes coming at you, still with the shoulder up and the backhand up glued to the face. Again, this is possible on both sides. So the most important thing, as you said, with all those variations, as long as you have your chin down, your chin lower than the tip of your shoulders, you're going to be pretty safe. And if you're just starting out, start with the standard variation. All right, next up, mobility. So the most important thing when you want to move around in your stance is to always stay in your fighting stance. And if you're like most beginners in our school, you're going to need to be reminded of this all the time. As soon as you start moving, you're going to start neglecting. Feet too close. You're going to start having your knees locked out, so your knees are no longer bent anymore. You're going to start raising your chin. So this basically is just a standing stance. You're not in a fighting stance at all. You're just standing there. You want to have your feet wide, knees bent, chin down. Repeat that as a mantra as you move around. So you want to have, in general, always some level of movement going on. And that's going to vary depending on your body type. But we call this the fighting sway. So always moving a little bit. So you can bounce with both feet. You can bounce from foot to foot. You can have more of a marching rhythm, a little bit slower. And you want to alternate between those different rhythms to keep your opponent guessing. Now, it's important to distinguish as well. Like I said, depending on your body type. So if you're a very small fighter like me, I'm 145 pounds on a good day, so it makes sense for me to move fast around. And if you want to see a great example of that, like in the flyweights, is Demetrius Johnson. He's bouncing around and flying around the ring at all times because it makes sense on a physics level, so biomechanics. You don't have a lot of weight to carry around when you're light, and the way the bones and the muscles and the tendons are made, it makes sense to move around it's efficient to move quickly. The heavier you are, the less you're going to be moving around. So watch heavyweight fights. The guys, they're a little bit more flat-footed. They move around a little bit. They're still moving, but a little bit less, and a lot less the bigger they are. And then they just stay there and wait for the other person to come in and then deliver powerful strikes. So it's different based on your body type, and you have to adapt that to your body type, and it's just simple physics. So it's the reason a mouse can move around really quickly, whereas an elephant is going to move slower. So depending on your body type, adapt this rule to you. But in general, an object in motion tends to remain in motion. So if you are moving, it's going to be easier to keep on moving and either go on the attack or evade an attack coming at you. And as far as the actual steps go, you can either move kind of both feet at the same time. You can move with what we call an open step, where one foot is going to move ahead and the other one's going to catch up, or a closed step where one foot is going to come closer to the other and the other one moves after. You can also do a switch where you're going to switch from side to side. You can do that moving forward. You can do it moving backwards. You can pivot on the front foot. You can pivot on the back foot. But in all those cases, really focus on the most important thing, which is to stay in position. You want to stay in your position as you're moving around. Wherever you go down, you go up, you go front, you go back, you go side to side. You always want to stay in a proper fighting stance. Another little important detail here, you have a distinction between what we call the bladed fighting stance and the staggered fighting stance. If your feet are in line with your opponent, it's going to be easier to move forward and back, and it's going to be easier to attack with the front hand or the front leg with an attack of your choice. If your stance is what we call staggered over here, it gives you more options to move laterally and more option to strike with the backhand. So we're going to see that more in detail when we look at the kicks and the punches, but just know that it's not wrong to align your feet or put it like so, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. So try to explore both and get comfortable. But again, feet wide, knees bent, chin down. Now, as you get better at this, you're going to recognize when the other person is out of range and they can't touch you. At that point, it doesn't really matter what stance you're in. You could be walking, you could be dancing, you could be doing all kinds of things. And that could be part of intimidation as well. But for now, if you're just starting out, always in position. And one more detail about switching stances. So there's different schools of thought on this subject. A lot of people say you always should have your power hand in the back so you're ready to deliver those powerful strikes and really get comfortable with one stance. Some people and some fighters are very good at switching stances anytime, and they can strike as well from the left or from the right hand in front. So this is your southpaw stance with your left hand in the back, or the orthodox stance with your right hand in the back. Now personally, the way I like to do it and the way we like to teach in our school is to be comfortable on both sides. So the reason is it gives you more versatility to adapt to different kinds of situations. Plus, if health and fitness are one of your goals for practicing martial arts, I believe it's more conducive to a muscle balance as well as joint and postural health long term to work symmetrically. So same way as when you do your fitness, you work symmetrically. With your techniques, I believe it's helpful to do the same as well. Plus, it gives you an advantage where you can rest certain muscle groups as you switch your stance. You're not really using the same muscles the same way, so it gives you more endurance in an actual fight or sparring engagement. All right, next, weight transfer, elevation, and twisting. So your standard fighting stance is going to be 50-50. Okay, so feet wide, knees bent, chin down. Your weight is in the middle of both your feet, so the equal amount of weight on both feet. Now, there will be situations where it's in your best interest to bring some weight forward or bring some weight backward. This is what we call the weight transfer. Typically, you can bait somebody with your head here and be ready to move it back quickly. You want to be moving your weight forward when you attack with a jab or with a cross, or moving your weight back as you want to evade punches here. The most important thing is that your head always remains in between your feet. As long as you respect that, you'll be well off because your center of mass is going to be within your base on the ground. So that gives you stability. If you start having your head outside of your base, now this foot is unweighted, the head is on the other side of the foot, it's very tedious now to bring the weight back in the middle, and it's going to be long and it's going to be exposed to counters or strikes from your opponent when you do so. So practice transferring your weight. Watch yourself, film yourself, watch yourself in the mirror, see where the limit is that you can move your head above one foot or above the other foot. So regardless of where you're facing, head above one foot or above the other foot is going to be the limit of your weight transfer. The next aspect is pretty simple, it's just elevation. So understanding what's the highest you can go while still having a slight bend in your knees. Again, you never want to be with your knees locked out, so it gives you a little bit more elevation, but you have no mobility with your legs at this point. So still you want your feet relatively wide, a little bit wider than your shoulders, and your knees always bent. So what's the highest you can be, and what's the lowest you can be? Typically in striking, the lowest you want to go is with your hips, same height as your knees. So that way you can go strike to the body here. This is going to be useful when you want to defend takedown. Somebody tries to grab your legs and you sprawl, or when you want to attack for a takedown of your own. So more on that in our wrestling basics video. But essentially understanding where the limit of your elevation can be is going to be very useful. The last aspect of moving your body while staying in one spot is adding the twist. This is supremely important, and that's where the power in your punches is going to come from. So understanding that you can move in a twisting motion, and that can be or not tied to your weight transfer as well. So we call that the fighting twist. So if we're in a fighting stance over here, first step is to do it on our own. So like we did the fighting weight transfer over here, head forward and back, we're going to isolate the twist. So imagine there's a skewer going down your spine and you're like a barbecue chicken rotating around it. So you can twist here and you can twist here without moving your head. Here, so like you're a barbecue chicken rotating around a skewer. In order to do so, very simple, you're going to lift the back heel here until your back knee is pointing towards your front knee. You're going to turn your hips as far as they can go, as well as your shoulders. So now your back shoulder is going to be in line with your target, and your front shoulder is now going to be directly behind it, so you're here in the front fighting twist. And the back one is the same thing. You're gonna pivot with the lead leg now, lifting your lead heel. Lead knee is pointing towards the back knee, and now you're angling your shoulders here, front shoulder in line with the target, and back shoulder directly behind it, still looking at our imaginary opponent. If I do face it in camera over here, twist here, 180 degrees. You don't want to go too far and show your back. Common mistake. You want to stay here, and then here. So twist, 180 degrees. Here or here, and then typically you switch your guard when you do so. So one hand goes to the face and the other shoulder goes to the face over here. So once again, here, twisting front and back while staying in the same spot. So that's going to help understand the twist, and you want to be able to do that on both sides. Twisting with no weight transfer. Now the application of the fighting twist is most often going to come with a weight transfer, because that's going to give us more power moving forward or moving backwards to load and unload our punches. Again, more on that in the punching video. But essentially, when we do a front fighting twist here, we're going to do a weight transfer and a twist. So lifting the back heel, knee pointing towards the other knee, and then aligning the shoulders with our imaginary opponent over here. And here. Front, and back. Here. Fighting twist. Again, facing the camera. Another common mistake is to move your head as you do so. You want to keep your head on target and just move your body as you move around, 180 degrees. Common mistake as well, people don't go far enough in the front variation. You really want to bring hips and shoulders to align, and you got maximum reach and power now with your backhand. Here, fighting twist. Now a little bit more advanced variation that's really cool is the jumping fighting twist. And that's going to be really good to condition our legs at the same time. So weight on the back here. Instead of just transferring the weight forward, let's add a jump. Here, here, here. So still weight transfer, twist, and with a jump, so covering distance. Common mistake here is to jump up. You don't want to jump up. You want to keep the same elevation, so the eyes, the head stays at the same level, and you're always moving forward and back. And again, you want to be able to do that on both sides. So here, back, front, always breathing and twisting those shoulders, twisting those hips, transferring the weight, and putting potential power in your punches. Now the last variation of the fighting twist is a little bit more advanced, and that's really going to help you isolate the twisting aspect versus the weight transfer aspect. So this is called the reverse fighting twist. So as normally we would twist forward and bring our weight forward, now we're going to do the opposite. So as we twist forward, we're going to bring our weight back here. And then do the opposite. As we normally would do the back fighting twist and with the weight on the back leg, we're going to do so with the weight on the front leg. So here, fighting twist on the back and facing forward, and fighting twist on the front and facing backwards. So here and here. So that will really develop your coordination. So here, back and front, back and front. And again, you want to be able to do that on both sides. Back and front, back and front, back and front. All right, and the last component of an effective fighting stance in the striking range is going to be head movements. Now, if what we've seen so far is a little bit much for you, if you're just starting out, click like on this video. This video will appear in your like videos. Bookmark this page, add it to a playlist, do whatever you can, and then focus on what you've seen so far, and then come back to it when you're ready for more. You can also watch this, and it's good to plant the seed right now so that you'll still slowly germinate and you'll be able to understand eventually faster head movements. So here we go. The concept of the cube. So, as we said, the limit of our weight transfer is between our feet. So you always want to keep your head above your feet so you have your center of mass within your base. So that, if you look at your feet position here, creates a square on the ground. So the intersection of where both my feet would meet, if we draw a square and lines parallel here and front and back here, that delimits a square. So the further I can move my head is here above the front foot, so that's one corner of the square. I have the intersection of both my feet here, which is the other corner of the square. I have above my back foot here, and then above the other foot here, so that square corner on the other side of the square here. So that's the limit of the square, and we combine elevation with that. And that's going to be the parameters of our head movements. So typically we can go side to side while keeping our head forward here. We can go front and back here, moving our head, and we could go up and down. And combining all those aspects will give us the parameters of our possible head movements. So as you're practicing your fighting stance, it's good to start putting a little bit of head movements in there as well. So you're providing a moving target for your opponent. Obviously, a target that is moving is a lot harder to hit. So if you get in the habit of always moving your head while respecting the three main criterias, feet wide, knees bent, chin down, so you will be safe at all times and your head will be moving. And then you can use that to land counter strikes. We're going to expand more on that later. And that's about everything you need to know for the fighting stance in striking, at least the basics. So other considerations, the next step for you, once you're really comfortable moving in all these ways, is to start doing attacks. So your punches, your kicks, so check out those videos, your wrestling attacks, so that's going to be the other thing, combining your striking with your wrestling and then your grappling. So if you haven't already, check out our 7 basic grappling postures in the cards above, and that's going to teach you how to move your body efficiently and effectively on the ground. And there's a whole different set of rules that apply on the ground when one or both of the opponents are already on the ground. So remember that fighting doesn't just occur on the feet. So there's a transition between the feet and the ground, which is the wrestling range, and there's the actual myriad of techniques on the floor, on the ground as well. So be ready for that, and that's the next step in your development. You want to have the strong striking, strong wrestling, and strong grappling as well. So if you're just starting out, that will be the next step for you. All right, so before we wrap this up, quick recap, 3 main requirements. So if you remember only one thing from this video, 3 main requirements: feet wide, knees bent, chin down. Have that running through your mind as a mantra. Feet wide, knees bent, chin down, wherever you go. We have your possible hand placements. Standard variation should be backhand glued to the face and front hand here to protect, either with a fist or with a hand. You can also have the hands further away. You can use your hands open for more grabbing or non-violence. You can have both hands in for more of a turtle block here that you can use to attack or disengage. And you can use the Philly shell as well if you're comfortable with that, using that for your defense. And if you're really comfortable with your head movements, hands down right over here. But we really have to be quick on your feet and quick moving your head if you choose to do so. Next thing we saw is basic mobility, so having always a fighting sway going on, so bouncing from foot to foot, both feet at the same time, or slowing it down. And remember that the bigger you are, the slower you're going to move, but that's okay. And the smaller you are, really the more you want to be mobile on your feet and using speed as your advantage. And from there, remember, the most important thing is wherever you go, however you move, whatever steps you use, whatever switch, you're always respecting the main criteria, which is feet wide, knees bent, chin down. We also saw how to transfer our weight, so front and back, how to manipulate our elevation up and down, as well as how to use the fighting twist. Here, standard variation with no weight transfer, transferring the weight front and back with the option of the jump, as well as the reverse fighting twist here, where we're doing the weight transfer opposite of the direction that we're twisting our hips. And the last aspect that we saw is the concept of head movements using the cube. So moving our head above the front foot, intersection, back foot here, and we can go up and down, forward and back, side to side for the basics of head mobility to provide a moving target for our opponent. All right, so there you have it, guys. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, click the like button. The video will appear in your liked videos, and you'll be suggested similar content as well. And in closing, please leave in the comments, who are you? What martial arts have you practiced, if any? Most of the people that come to our school have little to no experience. What about you? Have you practiced martial arts before? What brought you to this video? Why did you want to study the fighting stance? Have you practiced what martial arts? How long? Are you an instructor? Are you looking to learn ways to teach these techniques? So let us know in the comments. That's going to help us tailor the content better for you guys and really help you improve faster. That's our mission, to help our students of all levels improve faster through innovation. And in order to do that, we really like to know more about you and how we can help you better move forward faster. And once again, if you haven't already, click subscribe right now, hit the notification bell so you'll be notified every time we put out a new video. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you very much for staying tuned for our content. It means a lot to be able to share our passion with you guys. We got a lot of good stuff coming for you guys. Working hard to create some great videos from basics all the way to advanced techniques in striking, wrestling, and grappling. So basically everything you need to know to be able to defend yourself in hand-to-hand combat. So once again, Patrick Phillip here at Effective Martial Arts HQ in Pointe-Claire, West Island of Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Thank you very much for watching. Practice well.